Now we're live. Apologies. That took a while.
Sure.
Go back to. Okay.
So frustrating.
Here we go. Okay. Oh, thanks, Michelle. So you were writing out the third thing. Yeah, so we'll do testing stuff. And also I had some
Oh, this
stuff
isn't
involving-
Ninjix isn't testing stuff. It's from students, but yeah.
Oh, is it? Do you have? Okay, I guess we can get into it. Okay, so yeah, so I also had some speed up and PA core stuff and future profiling. And then, oh yeah, this part, which we'll see how that goes. Okay. Okay. Yes, we can start with testing stuff. The stuff I have is not super consequential.
Wait, Lily, do you have?
Oh yeah, Lily, do you have anything?
Oh, no, I'm good. I'm just here.
Okay. I think
Okay.
let's start with the Ninjix timeout errors. You know what? I have to like reset up. Oops. Let me see.
Yeah, I can bump that up.
Did I set it up as a timeout? I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, so do you have, this feels very related to the speed up stuff, and or just like trying to speed up the document assembly stuff, because as PDF is the function in AL document.
Yeah, I know.
That's
I
actually
mean-
doing things.
Oh, geez. Sorry.
Oh, you're
I
good.
thought I had the URL, but that is just, okay, consumer default. There we go. Copy link address. I'm gonna just try and replicate real quick. Just get to the end of the.
Can I screen check if that would help?
Yeah, I'm just trying to like
You're good.
get part way at least.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I'm close. Never mind, I'll just do this whole thing then. Okay, now I can share. It's loading the preview. So this is the preview. Then we sign and we'll see how it goes. It is kind of really weird in that this will have a 504, 503 timeout error, whatever that is. And then I've experienced it once before. I'm not sure how to trigger it exactly. Like if you X out and then come back to the interview, then the download screen will be there. Also, another interview has this problem, but it has it only on the, not only on the, it has it on the preview page as opposed to the download page, which is just interesting.
Yeah. So from what this is, this definitely looks like it's an issue with just the assembly part, and the same big long like speed up investigation stuff that we've been doing for a while. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I think okay,
I just, because I thought maybe it would give some useful clues because we have one where it's on the download page, one where it's on the preview page. And
So I don't think there's a huge difference. The only difference between the download and the preview page is that the download page is going to be the final version of that bundle, and the preview page is just going to be the preview version. And so I guess it might take a few more milliseconds to insert the signatures, but shouldn't take like,
so what I'm saying,
Mhm.
what I'm saying
yes.
is that in one interview, it is happening on the preview page, and
I
in
know,
one
yeah.
interview, okay.
Yeah, sorry,
like
I understand what you're
consistently,
saying.
okay.
But I just like I don't know if that makes a huge difference
Okay.
for us looking at things. And I think this happens sometimes. I think it just happens when DocAssemble is
'cause the
spinning on
preview-
something for too long.
Because the preview did not take that long to load. The preview was really fast.
Mhm.
Like this is super long, whereas the preview was really fast for this document. So like just, you know, a signature, I don't think would add that much more time. So I don't know why it's timing out.
It's sometimes. So it's okay. It might not just be signature. It is essentially the combining. I don't remember how DocAssemble handles item potency and going through each step, because I guess depending on how, like essentially depending on how the preview is set together and like all the questions are asked in the preview, like if essentially if there are some questions that aren't in the like interview order part, then DocAssemble will try to like assemble the whole document. It'll find that some variable is missing in the document itself, and it'll go back and ask that question. So it'll spend like maybe a second or two, like trying to assemble a document, realizing that something's missing, and then it will go back and ask that. But I don't know. And so I get it. Really, it does depend on like where, how exactly the interview is laid out. Because if the preview could just taking one step to the preview could be really quick because it's already assembled the preview pages for all of the other, like many other pages, however many other pages are in that interview before it gets to the final. But the final will always be like the one. If the preview page times out, the final page will also definitely time out, because that's the first time that the final document is being assembled, I think.
Okay. It's just surprising to me that such a quick preview would end up with such a long timeout on the download page, but if it does, it does.
I think it seems quick because it's spread out over the like several pages you've gone through before. Like each time you go through a half a page, it is caching if it can get a whole PDF, I think.
Okay.
There's a lot of weird caching stuff that I'm assuming is happening. But yeah, okay, so wait, which interview is this? The consumer default? Because
Yeah,
that would be
the-
useful.
The consumer default docket number branch.
Okay.
So I can put that in the deep dive
I'm
channel.
at it right now,
on, never mind then. I'm just gonna put it there anyway.
Go for it. Sorry.
You know what? I'll put it in the doc. That's much more useful. Floating meeting controls.
Okay. So
No, I'll stop sharing.
but yeah, so I think that makes, at least I feel like there's work on that. It's definitely like happening more and more, I feel, because we've got big interviews now, I guess. And AL document is kind of sprawling. So
I thought that the download screen has more stuff than the preview because it has all these download buttons. Does that make any difference?
I don't think that makes a difference. Well, it makes a slight difference, but I think like the thing that takes the longest is actually creating all those PDFs, which
Which
I don't remember.
usually the preview works, then that means that's not the problem, right?
What do you mean?
Because if the PDF production is done successfully on the preview screen, then the PDF should not be an issue.
Yes, and I don't think the PDF isn't an issue. So the issue, the actual like, I think the issue that's happening is that, like, and this just happens sometimes that I don't quite know when exactly happened, but essentially like when DocAssemble spends too long spinning on doing one particular operation, like if you've ever like tried to update a package on the test server or the dev server, and sometimes you just get back like a error, like wasn't able to update everything, and then you go back to the package management page and the package is there, like it actually did finish and it was fine. This is like a similar thing to that, in that it just, when DocAssemble like spins like the main or whatever, like the main process, DocAssemble spins too long trying to compute something, it'll just like your browser will assume that the server just isn't working anymore and it returns the timeout error. And so it's not that like the PDF isn't, which like this explains, I think would also explain why Michelle mentioned sometimes you can go back to the same page and the PDF is still there. It's like DocAssemble is still working on it, like even if it returns a timeout error, DocAssemble is still working on it. And the issue is that the issue is that there's some set default timeout that your browser has before it assumes that the server isn't working anymore. It shows you a timeout page. And so
Michelle, can you just go back?
All right. There we are.
Go back and see if it's completed now.
Oh, it went to the signature page again. So
interesting.
yeah. So maybe sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how.
But there, I
if
have
you- if you
confirmed,
like-
I
if you-
did
yeah.
see that I was in an incognito window when I did it, so maybe that made a difference. I don't know, but
It might, yeah. I don't know how exactly, like if it's, like if you refresh, like the 504 might just be a separate page, and so refreshing just might get you there. But if you like
it
go back,
took me.
yeah.
But I didn't hit back. I just reopened the tab. Like one time I reopened the tab and then the document was there. And this time when I reopened the tab, it was the signature page. So
Yeah, I'm not.
it might not have
super
been
sure
long
how
enough.
DocAssemble handles
I
it.
don't know.
So in that case,
Seems like a
that
long time.
the timeout message comes up too prematurely, is there a way for us to fix it, or does it have to be Jonathan?
Well, no, so this is definitely an us problem, and this is what we've where's there's like some GitHub issue that I commented on just this morning, that has been sort of, we've been tracking, that's where we're tracking it. And it is definitely an us issue, because like this doesn't happen as often if you aren't using AL documents. We do need to probably like a better, like be the exact same interview with and without a AL document to like be sure. But like in general, this doesn't happen as much with AL document, because AL document's doing a lot of extra concatenations and Word to PDFs and like more than is usually happening in a standard interview. And so it's definitely like an us thing. I think we from what we looked at it before, Quinn had mentioned being able to try to have like essentially turn getting the document into a background task, which I think is what will need to happen. So instead of like assuming DocAssemble is going to make it work on. Okay, Bob? Sorry, he just fell. But yeah, like
It's so funny. He was scratching himself and he bent backwards too much than phone before.
oh my goodness, I'm sorry, Jack. But yeah, so it's like essentially instead of DocAssemble like just normally executing a code block and trying to assemble the document all at once, we start a background task. That's doing the assembling of the document, and then sort of show the user like here are your documents, like we're preparing your document screen with just a little like animated GIF or something while it's processing for those like 20 or 30 seconds. And then when it's done, we can directly like bring them to the download page. And so there is no timeout. And because like we're showing the browser a correct page, but there is still something going on in the background. And so I think that's what we need to, or that's probably like the most
Well,
robust.
we can also start doing stuff in the background before, like after the preview page or wherever.
Yeah.
We can start doing stuff in the background and then take them to another page if it's still not done until it is done, type of thing.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. The background is mostly, it gives us more flexibility, and like we can definitely try to speed it up, and that's what I had been trying to do for a while, but I don't think it's going to make it consistent enough that we won't have like gateway timeouts and stuff on certain pages.
Yeah.
Another
I think-
thought I have is that, is there a way like for us to tell, okay, this interview right now is trying to assemble, let's say, X number of files. So I know it's going to take a while. Therefore, I produce a message and says, this is going to take a while. Please be patient or something. So you give a message to the user, then they know it is working instead of saying, wondering, oh, what is this hourglass thing? I don't know what's going on.
I think we can definitely, and we can put that under the little loading icon with some kind of before or after or something like that with CSS, or we can do it some other way. I'm sure there's a way.
I don't know if we'd be able to have like a loading bar or something that's like, here, this is processing. We could probably make a fake one, but that's morally, ethically gray area, I feel. But we could at least, I think at the very least we could have like an estimated, like this might take 20 or 30 seconds, or like this might take a minute or something like that. We could definitely generate.
Or we can just, I mean, we can just, I think Lily's just saying that the spinning thing is not clear enough that something is loading. Maybe I'm wrong. Have I
Yes.
misunderstood you?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So that's exactly what I mean.
Right. So we just need some text underneath the spinny
yeah.
thing.
Some infinite loop or something. So if we give a clear message, it doesn't have to be fancy. If it can be fancy, fine, good. But it doesn't have to be. Just at least give them something to know. Oh, okay, so it's processing.
Agreed. Yeah, that's a good point. Where is somewhere there's, yeah, it's issue 219 in assembly line is the like moving it behind a background task issue.
Okay.
And I think I'm going to copy paste that into the agenda.
Yeah, we can just put the address for the issue. Yeah.
Yeah, for the yeah, and I think putting all these thoughts there is a great idea.
Yeah.
So like background task should have some explanatory text. Okay.
It could also be a more like intuitive thing than just like some dots. It could be a time, it could be a clock, which most people who are using an online interview should be familiar with, I think. I hope.
A clock. I feel like that
Can't make
hourglass is
assumptions. Yeah,
the
but
hourglass too old now. I feel
the
like the
hourglass
hourglass
might
was
be too old. I don't know.
that's fair.
Maybe it's not. That was why I said a clock, right? But
I guess,
maybe
yeah,
it's
I feel
not
like
too old.
But I feel like the two universal-ish like things for like something's loading right now, where the little hourglass where your cursor turned into an hourglass, but I don't think Microsoft does that anymore. So like that might not be that much more. Anyway, yeah.
I think we've covered like this issue as much as we can right now. So I'll just tell them that like it's just not solvable until we solve it on our end, and they just can't see their download page. It's just, and
Yeah,
We'll do that as
if they
soon
want
as
to,
we
if
can.
it,
kind
it
of
might
thing.
actually work if they just get rid of the like on their download page, if they comment out the part that actually shows the bundle, they could still view the download page and it would just work, but it just wouldn't be the actual download if they want to be able to get
Or
all
the
way to the end or
preview,
something.
yeah, but they,
Yeah, or the preview. It's just actually
but
showing the
it
PDF
wouldn't,
would be
it
technically-
like wouldn't, there wouldn't be any point to it if they did that, because like the point would be to check if they got all the variables, and if it's
Yeah,
not
no.
triggering more variables, then it's, yeah, I don't know.
What's special
Yeah.
about this interview? Do they have a lot of files to assemble?
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't have a ton of stuff. It's not that big. And neither is the, I don't know about the other one. The other one might be longer, I'm not sure. But the one that's having the preview problem, I don't know about. But this one is not that big. Like I told you, the preview loads pretty quickly. So,
So it varies whether or not if it does take, like, why it takes a while, which is actually the next thing on our agenda, was what I was going to talk about, of like why it takes so long sometimes and why it
okay,
doesn't.
sure. So maybe we should move on to that, and that will like
But
be
yeah,
usefully revealing.
no, we'll have to see.
I have the personal experience with other websites where a page just go like just wait, but nothing happens. Then when I inspect, actually I saw errors on the console. So I don't know if that's this case or not. Just something.
Mhm. I don't think that's this case, because there might still be errors. We have occasionally just a few, like,
I mean,
we
it
have
just
the
says
occasional
gateway
console error.
timeout. It
Yeah,
says gateway timeout.
but yeah, and most of this is happening on the back end, just because Python, you have to run it on the server itself, and so there's not a lot that's actually happening in the browser window that you can see. So yeah, so
Okay.
Can you see something on the server? I mean, is there any log that reveals what happened?
so Michelle did
So-
mention, you did mention like a log, right? He's like the as PDF in the logs.
Like I saw as PDF being called a few times in the logs. So if you go to the playground and to your drop down with your name, it shows you, I can just a minute.
Oh, right. You mean
I'll share.
utility kind of thing there, right?
So I got here by going to this and then logs. And then you can see the consumer timeout is calling as PDF, which is what I was saying earlier
Mhm.
about it calling as PDF. And then my logs, when I last tested it, were getting mixed up with a bunch of other people's logs, and I was getting nauseous. So I did not explore further. But
This method
I don't
is
know what
not
this
allowed
is.
for the requested URL.
I think that's someone else because it's not your username.
Oh,
I can't see that. Anonymous? Yeah, that's not me. So I just have a bunch of more as PDFs. And
That is a lot of
then
as PDFs.
it's a lot of as PDFs. What can I
More than I would
say?
expect. We'll see.
Yeah. What happens if a docx has an error in it?
You would see an error.
Okay.
Yeah, if there's an error like in the logic, like it's not valid Python, or if it like references a variable that it can't find with a question, it would pop up with an error.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't want to think that this would be an error. But yeah, no, I think we've iterated at least enough on this particular instance. It's good to have another interview that this happens on consistently, because I have a few that like take a long time in my spot. Okay, so
Okay.
and then DA core. Oh yeah. So I think at least the next part, or at least the next thing that I put in the agenda, which is relatively related to this, is the actual. So some little tiny bit of like optimization profiles that mostly Quentin figured out. I sort of pointed him in the right direction. And he figured out like where we could cut things. And I think he had some other just unrelated times where he was like able to talk to Jonathan a bit.
Mhm.
And Jonathan made a PR today or at least, yeah, I think it was, he probably did this earlier, but at least the new release as of today, which was 1.2.89, has a new, we're actually like sped up the turning a docx into a PDF for a while because there was, it sped up turning a docx into a PDF because there were like he's using some like LibreOffice macro that just had some random sleeps in it for some reason that I don't think may have been necessary at some point, but I don't think they're necessary anymore. And so the good news about that is that it's a little bit faster. However, here I'm gonna open and it might screen share.
Oh, sure. I'll stop my share. There you go.
Just the little, this is the comment I made this morning on this, which is essentially, yeah, so it was this update, which is the one I was talking about, which essentially just, there were some wait, like 400 millisecond waits when every single time that it made, every single time that a PDF was generated from a docx, and you don't actually need those. So those are gone, and that speeds things up a little bit, but it was like sped things up for like each call that we had to Word to PDF. It like reduced it by about a second, or exactly about like 800 milliseconds.
Which is good.
Yeah, which is good. Like for
That's
most,
pretty darn good.
yeah, for most docx's, that is pretty good. And it took like 6 seconds off of a total like, it was like a 26, took like, at least on the interview that I was doing, it took like 26 seconds to do the whole thing. And then post update, it takes like 20 seconds. So like, that's good. And that might be enough to bring some of the students' issues down, at least like, it might still be a really long time to wait, but it might no longer be gateway timeouts, not super sure. However, the main thing is that like it still does take a long time, which I think is sort of the next thing that we just need to do, which I don't know if it's, but yeah, the next thing we need to do is essentially just figure out, like, start gathering all of these interviews where we have a lot of timeouts on them, or like they just take a long time to generate the documents anyway, either on the preview page or the final page. Need to profile them and see which part of like the document assembly is actually taking the longest, and then see like if there are essentially like trying what's up.
As part of this, do you want to run us through running the profiler?
Yeah,
is that like useful so we can test this stuff out too?
That actually would be pretty useful and really easy too. It's not like it's a pretty straightforward part. So there's, let's see, playground. I think I brought down the one interview I had it on.
How do you have so few projects? I don't understand.
I delete the ones that I'm not using anymore because I really can't handle there being like 20 different projects.
Yeah, you'd not survive my brain.
Is this one that I was doing? Let me see. It is not, but it's really easy to do it. So I think I need to just add this section to, I guess, the documentation somewhere. I can do that after. It's relatively simple, but it's essentially.
Oh, you finally got it down to like a thing. Okay.
Yeah, I have it down to a thing. And even before, I think I had it down to a thing.
You could put that in the toolbox.
Right, exactly. Then people just plug in and
everybody can do that then.
Parameters.
Not a bad idea. Okay. Okay, yeah, I like that. It's definitely would be a toolbox, and I can at least put some links and documentations to the section in toolbox. So there's this, so there's two parts. There's this little section, which is, yeah, just entirely a like could be in the toolbox and is independent of pretty much everything else.
Okay.
The breakdown of it is it includes some other like Python
Libraries.
modules. Yeah,
Yeah.
like the C profile module, which is the thing that's actually doing the work here. I don't remember if I'm using pstats anymore, but it makes a new file that you can download. Generates the profiler. Like I don't know where exactly, or if there's an easy way to do it, but essentially the like what if you were to write just like normal normal
Yeah, it's
Python, and
Python,
like
for sure.
yeah, like normal Python in a script, you would just do something like profile equals profile. You'd make this profiler, you'd say profiles enable, and then you'd call some function, like really long function. You call some really long function that takes a long time, and then you would do profile disable, and then you would do profile dump stats to like whatever local file you have.
Okay.
And then you would just have a file that had all of this profile information, which is essentially how long, like over the entire call stack of that last function you called, where like how long it spends in each function, how many times each function was called, and like all of this information, which you really need to, if you want to speed things up, you need to know like where your program is actually spending time.
Yeah.
Because it could vary, like if you're on different hardware or stuff like that, like running on your local machine is going to be slightly different than running in the
So,
server itself. But sorry,
yeah, and until you do have this in the toolbox, do you
Mhm.
want to just post this in the document, like the whole, like the code that you were showing us that you were highlighting? Oh, it's in the issue. So just post the link to that post in the document of like how to set up the
Yes.
profiler in your interview.
Yeah, I will do that. And there are two parts, and one was in an earlier section. But I'll add that when I get there.
Well, just add the
Yeah.
link to that. Yeah.
Yeah. So at least that issue.
And what's the earlier section? What do you mean earlier section?
earlier section is up here, which is essentially like I had one round where I like sort of did this, like did the same profile setup, but like V1 it wasn't as good.
Could
was
you
much harder
could
to
you
get
say the
there.
difference between them? So do we even need version 1?
You do need version 1. Sorry, you need. Okay, this is what like I want to get in the toolbox. So it is just like this. These are the setups, and it's not like over two different comments.
Okay.
But essentially, it's so like this is all. So that to get the profile, this is what you need to do. So you just copy that V2 section of code, and it does all of those same things, but just in a doc assembly way. So you can just refer to start profile, refer to stop profile. I think this actually can go and start profile just because it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, so like once you have this section of code, then you need to actually figure out like where you want to, what part of your interview you want to profile. So let's say we want to profile the like actual download page. So I think this is the download page for this particular interview. And I don't think we need that there. That explains
Oh,
what I was doing
weird.
last time. That was what I was doing with this interview last time, probably.
You put it in the title though.
Yeah, I do a lot of weird things in the title. So what was yeah, and essentially because you want to do in the title because then your title is processed first, and then the sub question and everything else.
Oh, interesting.
And so you just add
Sure.
you add these things to like your screen. So when it's trying to generate your screen in order, it will in order trigger start profile, which will start the profiler. And then at the very bottom, you do the same stop profile and make tile and then make tag. I think I call it stop. Yeah. And then somewhere in the middle, you just get a URL download for download file, which is what that section is here. So like you can't just quite copy paste this because this is going in the middle of another, like in the middle of some existing question in your interview. So you just copy the start profile at the top, copy start profile at the bottom, and then you copy this little document in the middle.
And what would you call it in there? Yeah, do an example. That would be great.
What do you mean? What would I call it in here?
Yeah, like where do you tell it that this is the file that you want to profile? I don't know. Maybe I'm not doing the. Maybe I'm
well,
not.
well, I think I know
Where's
what you mean.
where how does it know what? No, it's downloading its own file. I understand. So this is the profile file.
Yes. Yeah,
Regardless of whatever happens in between here, wouldn't you want to put that under the download list HTML? Where do you want to put that?
No, because this just gets the file itself. It just gets the link to the file itself.
Got it.
And then after, like, whenever you do stop file,
It'll be
dumps all
populated.
of it dumps all of the profile information into this like just text file that you can then click on the link and download. So whenever the screen is showed,
Okay.
the link is popular, or like that file has all the information you need. And so that should be good.
Okay.
I do not remember how long it takes to go through this interview, but we'll see how long.
The TRO?
Yeah, I don't think the
No,
TRO
I remember the TRO being ridiculously long. Maybe I'm wrong.
I
Maybe
think
it's
you're
just
probably right.
big in my memory. I mean, look at the left, look at the navigation bar, right? Like you have all that. But maybe that's not so much. Maybe each one of these is its own.
I think
kind of.
it goes relatively quickly, I think.
All right.
Let's see, if it takes more than like another minute, then I'll X out. Because the second part you do need, for the worst, yeah, I guess for the case I don't need to walk through the whole thing. Because I have some existing profile code or profile files. Okay, so preview page worked okay. Yeah, I think I did it, so it just didn't.
Not
If you-
hardly as long as I.
Yeah,
thought it
there's
was, yeah,
some
that's
pages,
fine.
like I think if you, yes, the other thing is depending on how you go through the interview and like what pages
Yeah,
you
it's,
add,
yeah, for sure.
or like what other documents you upload and what you select, it will take longer to generate. Okay, so
Okay.
then, yeah, so we
Here's the
added this,
profile document. Yeah.
and we have a profile document, and it's literally just test.prof. You can change it to whatever you want when you download it. Test.tro. And that's what you actually do to get the profile code, or to get like your profile information.
And then you want to make it
and-
pretty.
Yeah, and then you want to make it pretty. And the making it pretty is the stuff I just had and copied into the second comment. And
That's the stuff in the first comment. Got it.
Yep, that's what the stuff in the current comment. And it's really just these 3 lines of which you'll have to, there's Kcache grind. I guess it depends on what machine you are. Kcache grind is like cross platform. Like you can install, you should be able to install it on things other than Linux, or you can definitely install it on Mac. I've used it on my old Mac before.
Okay.
But worst case, you can just like throw it like here, I have this profile, and then up, like I wouldn't
Is
expect.
there an
students to
online
get this far.
one?
I don't think so.
Online
Probably
one?
not. Kcache grind is a very specific tool. And you
Okay.
usually run it you usually run it on local, you usually generate one locally. So
Okay.
it mostly makes sense to have a local tool for it. But
Okay.
there very well could be like, there are definitely other profile files or there are definitely other tools.
Vendors.
Yes, there are other renders you can use. I just like Kcache grind. But yeah, if you
Okay.
look up like Python profile, like viewer, or like profiler viewer, you could probably find some other ones online that you could just
Okay.
upload this file to then hopefully. But yeah, you do that and then install PyProf to call tree in your like in pip locally, and then you can just run this command, which will open the profile code you just had in pip. I have this open in one of my things.
Kcache.
Or Kcache grind.
Kcache
And so we run that and we get the K-cache grind of what actually took for so long. It might actually help to sort of understand how to do this because it is a lot. So
Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah.
Good.
So K-cache essentially it works as all of. So I usually there are these like these. You start on the left side. Each of these columns is essentially, or each of these rows is one function. So like whenever that profiler was running, the function ask, it spent 98% of the time in the ask for function, which is a lot of time. It's probably something in ask for that's taking a very long time to run.
Yeah.
And the only difference that is useful to know is include is this first column, and that's just how much time is spent in this function or any other function it calls.
Mhm.
And self is how long it spends in that function itself. So in this case,
Mhm.
and the thing that I like about K-crash grind is that you can easily see like what it's calling and where it's spending that time. And so down here in the call graph, which I think you can look at other different ways to view things, but I
Mhm.
prefer the call graph. So you can see ask for, calls processed attachments, calls finalized attachment, which then calls a lot of other functions.
Mhm.
And this is a bit more complicated, I think, probably because it didn't take as long. But the main thing that you can see is it calls like it'll finalize the attachment, it'll fill the word template, it'll call flatten PDF, and when it calls flatten PDF, it calls run. And run is just like I think it's subprocess.run.
I think we don't need to explore these sub-processes because there's
Yeah, that's
other
fair.
stuff to do, but
Um,
yeah, I think we get it.
Yeah, but yeah, that's fair. Sorry.
No worries.
But yeah, so that's just the main thing is mostly you'll be able to really like at the high level, you should be able to see stuff like fill template, which is like to figure out really what it does, you need to go to the docassemble code, core code, but at a high level, it's it's filling the docx template with something.
Yep.
And then like any other things you might see are like write to PDF sometimes takes a while, PDF concatenate takes a while too, etc. and stuff like that. So you'll at least be able to see like which of those functions are taking the longest time and be like, hey, this looks suspicious.
Yep.
And the point that the main point that I wanted to try and make was that it seems very interview dependent on terms of like how many different PDFs are you combining in a certain interview and how many of those like templates are docx's and how many variables are you looking for in those templates and like a lot of different things can change and like how many like other image uploads are you like taking and trying to display in the docx, and so all of those different things can cause the interview to take longer in different ways, and to make it like consistently faster we need to know all the different ways that it could go. And so that's just the next step is just trying to figure out how all of the different interviews are taking a long time.
Okay.
So Michelle, actually, then you can use this one to try
Profile
the
those two
other
for
one that
sure.
you show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
that's what I
hoping.
was hoping to get. Yeah.
At the least that maybe that the preview level you might be able to. I'm a little afraid that if it's like timing out still, that it will still time out. If you can get to the final page eventually, it might like if you can figure out consistently.
I mean,
how to,
can I somehow profile it like just see, profile it anyway, like on failure, still profile it?
So the profile will still be running. It's just there won't like if docassemble can't show you a page afterwards, then there's not going to be a way to download that information. Like
Can we maybe we can log it to the logs?
That's a good idea. Yeah. So I guess like the difference would just be instead of that URL for in like the actual page, that's a great idea of just like logging it right after it's done. And then even if it times out, it should eventually still show up in the logs, hopefully. As long as docassemble isn't doing stuff like trying to kill processes, which I don't think it would.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's a good idea and probably the best next bet for that right there.
Cool.
Yeah, no, this is a good point.
Cool.
I will try and document all of that in an actual like, text file in the toolbox, and have some other options that are very, very like my setup specific.
Yeah, cool.
Cool.
Okay.
And that's that. We have next as testing stuff.
Oh, whew, I totally forgot everything. Okay. Let me get some testing stuff up. Reports, or you know what, I'll just, this is like a soft question. I think I'm gonna need to show you guys an example though. So apps. Let me see if this is using the current one, the most recent one. I can just, it looks pretty recent. Okay, so I'll show you guys kind of what it looks like. Thank you. Now, so if we come here to available interviews, we've got set up automated testing. And you get taken through a process to set up your secrets, et cetera, et cetera. The thing is that I'm trying to make it so that an organization can set up secrets so that their developers don't need any special permissions. All they need is their own account on GitHub and to be on a repository as a contributor. So I'm trying to do that, but the thing is, right. The thing is that, you know what, I'll get us to this page here. This shows it most clearly. So I need the email of the testing account, the account that will be running the tests, and the password of the account that will be, oh, great. That's useful. We'll be running the tests. Maybe we'll blur that out before posting it.
Yeah, sure.
Then here is kind of one of my puzzles right now. The easiest way for someone to get the, what I need is the playground ID and the server URL. And the easiest way for me to do that is if someone just puts in the frickin' interview URL. Just that. They put in an interview URL and that is easiest. But to do that, they have to be logged in on the account. So right now I'm logged in as myself, not the testing account. So to run an interview as a testing account, I'd open an incognito window or another browser and like log in as a testing account. And then I would run a file from the testing account. Now, for a developer doing this for themselves, I'm just like, just do that. Make sure you're logged into account and make a new project for the package that you're doing, get the GitHub code and run a file, right? But my question is, and not only that, I have this part here that says, is this the server where the tests will be run? And if you say yes, they say, are you logged into the account where the tests will be run? Right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then if I say no, it's like, well, then go log into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, for a like GitHub organization admin to go through and do these steps, like, do they need to answer these questions? Will they know how to just get the ID number? Like, could they just go here and I could be like, give me the ID number and give me the server address? Or do I need to make them go through this whole process? That's my current like blue pen, black pen question. I don't know if you know what that means, but like.
How many times does this happen? This is per interview?
For an organization, this is once.
Okay.
For an individual person, like for an individual package, person just making a package for themselves, like a testing for a specific package. And that's another thing, like there's this whole dimension that's like, I'll try and,
if it's only once, can you do this through configuration?
So yeah, you could do it through configuration, but right now I'm doing the lowest hanging fruit, which is just give me your information and I'll put it in. Like you could do it with configuration on the server, but I'm not planning on anyone else having this on their server. I'm just planning for this to be on our server at the moment. Like, and I am hoping that other people will be able to use it. So one thing I've done is the first page is like, who are you? What is up, right? I'm setting up organization secrets, or I'm setting up testing for one package. I'm a contributor, or I have admin access, right? So another dimension of this is that I'd like someone to also be able to set up multiple packages if they want. But then there's a whole like, what do the questions look like for that? Because what if they're authorized for some of the packages and not for other packages, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So like that kind of, so I'm setting aside the multiple packages for the moment. And I'm just
Yeah,
saying like,
that's
what is the next step for someone who's going through like setting up organization secrets? Do I just skip to this page and say, well, if you don't know what your ID is, then go learn some stuff about DocAssemble? Or do I say, or do I take them through this whole process?
So I
Okay.
like the, oh, sorry, go ahead, Lily.
Right. Just to take a step back, if we're talking about admin setup, some basic stuff for the organization, wouldn't the organization share the same server? Why do you think they could use different servers?
So we have 3 servers. We have dev, testing, and the live server. So like, for example, Aubrey could be setting up something to be tested on the dev server, but she might be signed in on the testing server. If she's signed in on the testing server and she's setting up for the dev server, then she's not going to have a problem signing in on the dev server. What happens here is if I'm signed in on the dev server as myself, but I want to use a different account, the automated testing account, to fill this stuff out, what's going to happen is I'm going to start filling this stuff out. I'm going to need to log into the testing account, and then I'll lose my progress in the interview. And that will mean that I will have to start again, and that will be annoying.
Yeah, but wouldn't the test server is for test? It's there for your the automatic testing should have happened on the test server.
I'm just using them as examples. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, no, I'm just talking in general, like the conceptually. If we're talking about testing, I mean, like the most natural thing would be, okay, let's run it on a testing server, right? You wouldn't want to run it on production server, for example, right?
You wouldn't want to-
And that okay, let me just say, maybe I got some basic thing wrong. I'm thinking, okay, we start with that, we develop an interview. We are ready, then we go to test. That's where we do all this testing. Then the automated testing should be part of that.
Yes.
Therefore, so I'm thinking, so for the most part, it's going to be run on testing server, test server.
That will be
Well-
up to Quentin, and let's not debate that, because that's not up
Yeah.
to me or you or us. It's up to Quentin and David, so they can decide where they want the tests to run. But that's a different conversation. If you want, you can message them. But I'm trying to figure out the interaction for an admin setting up organization secrets.
I think it makes sense as just a reasonable, like, quick check. Is this the right one? Yeah.
So just keep the flow, the same flow.
I think it's, yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like most of the flow seems good, and I don't like, yeah, like even if you're an admin and you might, like in some contexts know like all of the stuff that you're talking about in this interview, I think you're spelling it out really well, and like making it like I think separated into smaller questions like this is what makes Doc Simple easy and definitely a lot easier to set it up. I don't really know if people would know like the user number off the top of their head in terms of like, oh, what's your user number? And so I feel like the URL method is a better way of doing that.
It's
I
just,
guess,
it's hard to
yeah.
explain. Like every time I've tried to explain
Oh,
to
no,
someone what
yeah.
the ID is, they're like, huh? I'm like, never mind. Just
Yeah,
just
it's one of
give
those
me
things
the
that
URL.
DocuSimple makes very like just like it hides it really well in the background because most people don't need to know what your user ID is. And so
Well,
I feel like I like the URL way of doing it. I was asking originally like if this happens multiple times because like yeah, if you're going to do the third or fourth time, you might not have that like you might remember what number was in your URL, but you might not remember where exactly that URL is. And so having an option to just type in the number might be a little easier, but I only think that's going to be necessary if you're doing this exact process multiple times within this like a short time span. Like
I should have a page that's like, if you find yourself doing this multiple times, make an organization and put your stuff in there because
but since it doesn't, I think this is the right way of, or like so what I've seen so far, it like seems like a good way of asking questions. Like
Lily?
it mostly keeps it flexible too.
it keeps it the most like literal and clear. As long as you don't mind going through the cruft, right? Lily, do you have thoughts?
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. All right. So that's question number 1. Question number 2. Well, that's a relief. Then I have to change like so much less stuff than I thought I had to change. That's really nice. Very nice. Okay. So, the next thing, cucumber, is like, I've started making reports that can test I've started testing reports that can test unexpected failures. And I wanted to pass this by people as well as the updates to the reports. These are all the unit tests, but it's not loading the rest of these. Where are they? Okay. So let me find one with a failure. But you can see that the rows that got set, it's indented and it says rows that got set. I don't know if that was what was intended, but that's what I had understood. Everything says screen ID. Where is the failure one? If I just download the file, it'll probably be easier to find the darn thing. Here we go, scenario failed. So this is the kind of message that I was thinking of.
Okay. And that's just a failure on a question.
This scenario.
Right?
When you say scenario, do you mean a screen, or do you mean a scenario for the whole interview of a certain input, or what's the definition of a scenario?
Scenario is just like, it's like, I am a user and I come and I answer the questions in this way.
For the whole interview, all the screens.
Whatever the developer wants, right? As far as they want to go, they say, you know, the user does this.
Yeah, it does start from the first. No, I don't think we have a way to.
I mean, you can pick the interview. Sometimes there are multiple interviews that people can use in the same package, right? So the developer has to pick an interview and type that in the test, and then, you know, they have to save, you know, in the file of the test, and then they save the steps that they want the user to take, and then they get this report at the end. And this is, I have a bunch of different scenarios, right? And I have a bunch of different interviews. So this is
So-
maybe in a different interview.
So this is from one test or it's from multiple tests?
It's from multiple tests. You can run multiple tests for the same file or the same, or multiple files. You can do them all at once. And anything in your package.
Hmm. So then as time goes by, this file becomes longer and longer, harder and harder to find what I just ran, right?
Right, but you do have the scenario description here, which is why it's important to write a good scenario description, because then you can search for it, right? Like,
Is there a way to like add a date, like when I ran it? So at least I can search for something quick. For example, I could run the same scenario multiple times in different on their different days or something. They would all be in the same file, right?
I don't, Bryce, do you think,
I don't think so. I'm not sure if you're thinking of it
I'm
like
not
a
what
different
you're
way
sure
of,
what you're asking.
yeah, I think it might be thinking of a different way of testing, Lily. Like, because this is the automated part. Like whenever like you make some commit to your GitHub repository of your interview, then these tests will run on that commit all at once within like the span of max. There's like a time limit, I think, but there's like a maximum like within 15 minutes of each other, all on the exact same code. So it's not going to be like changing code or like anything else. It's all going to be like, this is what the repo looked like for all of these tests, and it's not going to change based on when you, ideally it wouldn't change based on when you ran it.
This
So, like, if you ran it again
gonna be
later.
this is gonna be the same. This is always like this file right here. So maybe it'll help if we go to actions. So like that one was, let's see, called merge branch main into 3.1.12. There we go. That's this one. So that one will always look that way. The other day I did a different, commit. I pushed to the repository with a commit, and it did these tests, and these results are always going to be the same also, right? Like it has its own report.
Oh, okay, all right. So I think I misunderstood. I thought that the user would need to go to that big file to find the report, but no, you actually have what's relative for today's test right on the screen. I don't need to go through that whole big file, right?
Right. I mean, this file is just that run, right? This is just that time. Like, so this big file is all the ones in here. If I go in here, this has, this is for all the tests that you wrote. And I've written a bunch of tests. So they're here, right? I've written like 15 scenarios or something. My user does this, but in here, over here, my user does a different thing. And over here, my user, this user has children, this other user doesn't have any children, right? So that you can test all kinds of different paths. And you can also download them. You don't have to look at them online if you want. My thing doesn't here. You can download the report here too, as just a text file.
Is the name of the text file hard coded? Because that might be a place where I agree with if like which commit it was run on, or somehow being able to tie that report file back to the PR you were on or something like that.
So
is
it
that-
has
is
the
that
date and
hard-coded somewhere?
time at the top.
Okay.
We might be able to do the commit, but we at least have, just a sec. Oh, I said, do you guys see it? Because I don't.
No, I think it's just that's just how GitHub's little like inter-screen terminal stuff works. It lets you scroll before it actually downloads and renders.
Right.
What is
So
the ... I've been curious about what that dot dot caret dot dot caret dot dot star stuff is at the top.
For sure. So dot dot is what Cucumber does automatically. And the thing is that when you are running it does it for every step you do. But when you're doing a story table, right? When you're like doing one of these big tables,
Mhm.
That's all one step. And developing locally, like I don't know why we can't see it now on GitHub when you run it. Right now, you can't see these progressing as it runs, but you used to be
Yeah.
able to. And there must be a way to configure it. But locally, when you're running it and just nothing is happening, and you're like, where am I in this process? So a star is like a dot in which like one variable was set. A bottom facing arrow is that a variable was set that navigated to a new page. And a sideways facing arrow means that there was a navigation, but it wasn't setting a variable, right? So a continue field was pressed even though it didn't set any variable. Continue button.
Okay.
And that way I can, when I'm developing locally, I can see approximately where it's getting stuck and compare it to like previous runs and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, that makes sense. I was just curious. I figured it was something like that, but it was just looked like literal runes.
Yeah, yep. And this will be documented somewhere someday for people who care, but I don't think this is our major audience. So
Yeah, you're right.
it was just for my sanity and speeding up the development process. Like it's much easier to say, okay, we're stuck here. I'm just gonna stop now because it's not getting over here, you know.
Mhm. So the only
Okay,
question I
so
had
I
is,
saw the line that has a date and time, so that's what I was thinking of. So it's good to see it there.
Okay.
nice. Okay, yeah, that's good.
Right.
Yeah, commit number might be a bit difficult to grab like while you're running, but it's mostly if you download it. Like as long as you're looking at it through GitHub, it should always be tied back to the.
I should be able to
commit.
get the commit number because I have the git ref because it needs to know what GitHub branch it is pulling the code from. So I would probably be able to get the commit number.
That'd be useful. But also relatively minor, in my opinion. It's mostly like if you download it and you are passing around report.txt or like report.md, that might be a bit hard. Oh, the only other thing is, so what does it? I guess I'm still not sure. That failure, like how it was showing failure, looked good because it was still like very clearly stood out as you're scrolling through of this is where it failed. But how? Like what info? I don't remember. I guess I don't remember what info GitHub will give you if it fails. If it will tell you the scenario that it fails on. So you can just like at least enough info that you can control F in the file to look for it.
So like down here, if the things have failed, like there will be a summary. Doesn't do a really great job. It like will say what failed and then it'll show the steps under it.
Well, it has one failed there, right? Is that a separate thing?
So one failed, but that was the expected failure.
I see.
Which was one of my questions, was like, should I make the steps pass to, or should that be a failed step for the testing of the testing framework? But going back to like, what does this look like when a scenario fails? Does it tell you what scenarios fail? I think it doesn't just list them. I think it lists them and their contents, like a scenario and its steps and which step was a failure, but it lists all of the steps. And when you have a really long table, that's pretty annoying.
Yeah. And also like a duplicate of what's just earlier in the file, right?
Yeah. So maybe report a list of failed scenarios. Or perhaps put failed scenarios first. The list of scenarios, which we'll have to change how we're doing reports completely, but whatever.
So that would be very, very helpful.
Yeah. Oh man,
Yeah,
I
I just feel
know.
like
I
the only-
understand. There's so many very, very helpful things that are so annoying to do.
Mhm. That is the only like thing I feel like this is missing though, is just like an easy way to find that section. Like everything in
good
the
point.
actual scenarios themselves are like really good. But I do feel
Right-
like
right
you need to be able to find
now-
where your error is. That's like the like state, like that's one of the reasons that like the source tab is a bit difficult for like newbies, is because you'll see an error on your screen and then you'll click source and then DocAssemble will show you like the entire stack, and it's kind of difficult to figure out where your stuff is actually going wrong.
Yeah, so like you can right now search for scenario failed. So there's one saving grace here in
Okay.
that,
Mhm.
like at least there's that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I,
so-
I'm thinking, okay, if it's too difficult to show up the summary of the fails in the beginning, is it easier to show it in the end? Because at that point you have run through all the scenarios. You have, if you have things saved in the memory, you could just grab them and just do a summary and put it at the end. So basically you put it somewhere so that people can go to that section specifically. They know what to look for. Rather
Yeah.
Say again? I'm not sure I'm following. It might have been, I just was doing too many things, was too ambitious. So say that one more time.
Okay. I'm thinking if, I mean, from the user point of view, I would like to see the summary of all the failed scenarios in the beginning of the report.
Mhm.
But if that's difficult to do because you have to go through all the scenarios first, then you know, okay, you have 1 or 2 or 3 failed. If it's easier for you to put the summary in the end of the report, that's fine. Because sometimes
Yeah, that's either way, it's a different way of organizing the data. Right now, things are just being appended to the report one at a time when they happen. So that means organizing data into like a different, which it's not that different. Actually, let me think, because we've got the scenario. I think we've got a map by the ID of the scenario. And that means that we could possibly put a flag on a scenario that failed and then use that flag. And then, yeah, I think it's doable. It's all doable. It's just a matter of like how do, and it might actually be more useful to people to put it at the end. And because when something fails, GitHub automatically pops you down here. And so it might be better to put it at the end. But the thing is that at the end, maybe report, suppress, Cucumber, step failure, Cucumber's own step failure reports. That's probably not a good idea. I'll put it at the top then, because Cucumber would have its own reports down here, those long ones that I described. And so like they would happen in between mine and this like summary down here. And so you would have to go find the top of the Cucumber errors and then find these reports. So I guess.
Yeah, maybe the Cucumber errors will be good.
No, they're not.
Or, no, okay.
No, they don't really tell you on this level of detail what happened. Like they just tell you.
Will they tell you the scenario?
Yes, they would tell you the scenario, but they have so much in them, you have to scroll up to find every scenario. It's really annoying. But we can, I think, I was thinking of maybe suppressing them. Sometime I'll show you what an actual report looks like when it has real errors, and you can give me feedback on that. But they are useful for figuring out whether our framework is failing. This is the thing. So they are useful to have around. But as far as like being useful for a developer, I don't think they're that useful. I've added some specific error messages to them sometimes, but they don't tell you in the same way. Like, you know, when they have like the whole table there, you don't know which variable was the problem or which page was the problem, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Yeah, I will work on putting them at the start or the end. That is a really, y'all, those are really great improvements. Just because they're going to be hard to do doesn't mean that like they aren't a great idea. They just, you know, going to be a thing. That's all.
understand.
All
the
of these
struggle.
things have been really great though. The struggle
Nice.
is real. Okay.
Okay.
So I think like those are my main things, which is freaking awesome. We got to both those things. We got to all those things. Did you have other ones on the, because I don't feel like we really
Well, Michelle
Who's that?
dropped off. I don't know if she hit a wrong button or something, but to answer your question, we did have one more thing on the agenda. And it was specifically, I can't pause. Now you're back.
I did not mean to leave. I just meant to stop sharing, but that's not how it happened. So what I was saying was we didn't seem to cover like much technical stuff other than how to use the profiler. Did you want to cover more technical stuff on like what is going on with the functions themselves or anything like that?
Probably not right now. That's a good point. Probably not right now though, because like there's like the work, like I think a lot of that work has been done. Like that was what Jonathan had tried to speed up already in Docassemble Core. And we need to we probably should do more technical stuff on other functions, but we should probably like have some different, essentially do the profiling first, and then when we have the profiling, then we can do like okay, what's actually happening in this function and what's taking so long and stuff.
Okay.
So I think doing that once we have some good profiles would be good. I was gonna say we did have one thing, which I guess I'm talking about now. It feels like it might be a security thing. But we just won't upload this YouTube video until we know it's there. But essentially I was looking at just like going through and testing some stuff earlier in another one of Quentin's, like Quentin has like a made interview like up to code, which is essentially the housing TRO plus a lot of other
Yeah.
like
Oh, that's what I was
repairs, sanitary
remembering.
stuff.
Yeah.
That one's very long. It's pretty good, but it is also very long. And I think that was why I did it, because I was like, this is a good way to like test on how long things are taking for that. However, it was when I was doing things, I like was just randomly testing stuff, and I had like a random docx template that I like uploaded as an attachment somewhere and accepted, and then Docassemble tried to like find the variables that were in that attachment, which was from like a completely separate like testing interview. And so it had stuff like, it was from like the Docassemble like demo docx template. So it was like planet and like inhabitant count.
That's great.
But yeah, so it's very interesting. And I saw the two parts there were, one, I wasn't sure what all you can do in docx templates and like what restrictions Docassemble has on the code running on a machine. But theoretically, you could upload a docx that then has just a section of Python code that executes and like or a really long Python statement that like makes a call to the database and gets other random information and like leaks it out somehow. I don't know if that's possible, but it feels like it might be. And Docassemble lets you do so many things that I don't know what's possible and what's not. And then the second part of that is too, we probably don't need people to upload docx's where you just need to upload images. And so I think I like was chatted with Quentin for a short time this morning before I forgot that he was on vacation. But he suggested that we at
Before
least,
he
like,
forgot he was on vacation.
I guess we both forgot. But he at least suggested that we do a quick like see what other
Test.
interviews, like yeah, just see what other interviews we have out there that might let people upload docx's. And at least for now, they probably don't need to upload a docx if they want to upload some like we can make it so they can upload PDFs or like maybe text files, but probably not docx's.
Could we just say like, could we just convert the docx to a PDF before even having it touch our code? Like in some kind of sandbox or something, just so like they can upload docx's and they won't be, or just like disable Jinja on a particular docx or something like that.
Yeah, that would be another way of doing it, but I don't know. I guess I think that would depend on how we're bundling things, because I think the issue is that docx is getting added to, like, I guess when you try and insert a docx into another docx, it just like sort of adds it. I don't know if it concatenates it to the end of the docx, so it's like your template file now has more pages that weren't there before, or if it just adds it as a separate document that we're trying to like concatenate with everything else. This was a very quick thing that I like realized as I was testing it. I didn't get a lot of time to like dive into it, but
Nice though, very nice.
yeah, essentially that was just I wanted to at least bring it up to be like, okay, this seems like we should at least do something with it.
I mean, quick way to test it is just put user info, just get user info in a docx and
Okay.
upload that, and you'd be able to see if it's able to get that kind of stuff.
Mhm. Is user
And
info
it's a good
just- yeah.
demonstration of like, we don't want
Mhm.
them to be able to get user info. So
Yeah. What all is in user info? Is it just
or maybe user info isn't the one I'm thinking of, but I know it at least has like the package version and like has a bunch of package information, and then
I do have some interviews out there that like call, I think it's like get.
it has
not-
the sort variable. I mean the trigger variable. Trying to change my language
Mhm.
around that.
That's right. I feel
um,
like stuff like if we can call like get config, if I can call get config with anything, then
Ooh.
that would be not good. So
Yeah,
okay.
but even like I don't think they'd want user info available. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. So
Whatever.
maybe-
Like if you can
Yeah.
call any of those, it's not good.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do some quick tests on that and then
Yeah.
we-
But like, yeah, get config would probably be in. I'm not sure you can even call get config from like, maybe, I don't know. Interesting.
Yeah, I know you can call it.
That would
from
be
just general
hilarious.
Python, but I don't know if it will work from a Jinja. I guess the thing is, I just don't know what the restrictions are on Jinja templates or not.
Well, because you have to have the admin permission, right?
Do you have to have admin permissions to call get config?
I mean, I can see it configured on our server. You
But
have
the
to have-
interview, like the interviews that run can call get config. Like you might not be able to, like if you're not an admin, you can't add things to you can't add things to the configuration or like edit them, but you can write an interview that
Reads
calls
from
get config.
them.
Yeah,
It
reads on them.
reads
So
it.
like that's why like developer is a separate permissions level from just like a user.
Like if we wrote it into one of our docx's, like, I think it would run. I guess we can try
Yeah,
that.
I guess. Yeah, I'll try it. I'll see how reproducible it is.
Sounds fun.
Cool though. Okay. So that sounds good. I will try if it does turn out to get all of these like serious things, then I'll probably like Teams message a bit around to see if I can ask, see if either of y'all can like help out and like going through old interviews to see what things we have or what interviews we have that are like uploading documents.
For sure, for sure. And remember to log the URL of the profiler download PDF. I just wanted to say that really quickly when you make it in the toolbox, because people won't be able to add that themselves, I don't think, as easily.
Oh, yeah. Will do.
Okay.